Yo, ladies, it's your boy, Mr. Locario, the bad boy of the dating game. So in this video, I'm going to tell you that if you continue to date like this, you are not going to find a man. It's just not going to happen. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to stay single. Okay, so listen to what I'm about to say, because this is going to change your entire dating life. Now, what happens is this, right? Either what I'm about to say is happening now, you're at this point in your dating situation, or at some point you will be at this point, right? And what I'm talking about here is that there's going to be a point where if you've been single long enough and you're getting older and you want a man for a long-term relationship, something serious, that could probably be marriage or whatever it is like that, right? What happens is that at a certain point, you start to be extremely picky and judge guys that you're dating harshly, which causes you to dismiss guys who could actually be somebody that you could have a good relationship with, right? And this happens because as you go on your dating situation, you're out here dating and doing all this other stuff, you run into situations where things didn't work out. You get with another guy, it doesn't work out. You get with this guy, it doesn't really work out or whatever. And now you're frustrated, you're tired, right? And so you want a particular type of guy to be with for the long term. So then what happens is that there are certain things that went down in your past that you're trying to not make the same mistake. You don't want to date the same type of guy. You don't want to go down the same route, right? Which is understandable. But the problem is that what happens is that you might have certain preferences, and those preferences are stopping you from actually progressing in the situation when you are out here dating, right? So it's one thing to have certain things that are non-negotiable, because you need some of those to make sure that you're not, dealing with someone who's going to be detrimental to your life. You're not dealing with a guy who's going to be on some BS. You're not dealing with a guy who could, threaten your safety and so forth and so on. So there are certain non-negotiables, like, I'm sure if you met a guy and you found out that he was a criminal, or he was doing some type of nefarious type of stuff, you would drop that immediately and keep it moving, because you're like, hell no, I'm not dealing with that guy because he's on this type of nonsense, right? That makes sense to get rid of a guy because of that, right? But what happens is that because of certain things that happen in your past, you might have certain preferences, not things that are not, non-negotiable, but preferences that you're looking for. And if the guy does not have those particular preferences, you immediately write him off, because you're like, well, he's not the perfect guy that I'm looking for. Because remember, you've been through all the nonsense, and now you're trying to actually find somebody who's better than the last guy, trying to find someone who's going to actually be a good dude, right? But the problem is this, is that because you are trying to not make the same mistakes before, and because you're trying to get it right this time, or to get it perfect, what you're doing is you're becoming more and more narrow in your selection, which is causing you to get rid of guys quickly that could actually be guys that you could benefit from and have a good relationship with. And usually this happens because you are nitpicking at certain things and coming up with rationalizations to say, okay, he's not the guy. So what am I talking about? So for example, let's say you are, on a date with a guy, right? And y'all are having a conversation, you're going back and forth, y'all interacting with each other. And he says something like, I really work a lot. I have this business that I'm doing right now. And, I'm getting that off the ground and so forth and so on. Right. So now what happens is that before he told you this, everything was cool, right? You was attracted to him. You had a good conversation. The date was flowing. Everything was awesome. Now, all of a sudden, because he brought up the fact that, I have this business, I'm getting off the ground, I've been doing this and doing that. What happens is, and this is just an example, you might say to yourself in your mind, oh no, this is it. This is done. I'm finished with this guy. Why? Because before, in your past, you might have dated some dude who was trying to get a business off the ground. This shit didn't work out. He asked you for a loan. This happened, that happened. So now, because he said that thing that triggered something that happened in the past, and now you're dismissing this guy, even though you're actually having a good time with this guy on the date. You see what I'm saying? Or something couldn't have happened in the past, but you're assuming something may happen. So he's like, yeah, I'm working a lot because I'm trying to get this business off the ground. And in your mind, you're like, oh, he's one of these guys. He's trying to make it, quote unquote. And, he's going to be a bum and he's probably not really making things happen and so forth and so on. So now you dismiss him because of this one thing he said, even though everything else on the date and the vibe is going great, right? Let's use another example. Let's say you are, on this date with this guy. You're having a good time. You're going back and forth. You're attracted to him. He's attracted to you. Everything is good. Then he tells you, oh, well, yeah, actually, I was married before, but we got a divorce, a few years ago. Right now, let's say he says that and that triggers something for you. Oh, no, he said that. Oh, no, it's a wrap. So now your whole demeanor in the date changes and you've dismissed him because of this one thing he said. Right? So what happens is that, let's say in the past you dated a guy who was divorced and then, he got back with his wife and now you met this guy and now because of what happened before, you don't want to deal with this guy because you think the same thing's going to happen and yada, 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 so forth and so on. You feel what I'm saying? Let me give one more example. So let's say, you talking to this guy, everything is all good. Yeah, the vibe is good. The date is good. And then within the conversation, he tells you that he has a kid. Now, all of a sudden, oh no, he has a kid. He's done. He's finished. Fuck out of here. I'm tuning out. I'm done because the last guy I dated who has a kid, he had a crazy baby mama and the crazy baby. You see what I'm saying? So what happens is that you dismiss these guys, even though there's a connection there, even though you're having a good time with them, even though you're attracted, this one thing comes up that is not necessarily a deal breaker, but it's something that you choose to pick to sort of end things before things can actually happen, even though you and this guy are actually getting along in this moment. And what happens is that if you're doing this and continue to do this, right, you're not going to find a man. You understand? It's going to be hard for you to get a man because what happens is that you are being too picky, too narrow in your search. And the reason why you're doing that is because of all the things that happened in your past, right? And now you're looking for this mythical, perfect guy who's going to be, exactly how you imagined, and he can't say or do anything that is going to trigger something that may have happened before or trigger something that may make you think something is going to occur based on him saying this thing, even though this thing isn't really even a big deal, right? So like, let's say, for example, you are talking to this guy and he says, I haven't really traveled much. Actually, I'm kind of scared to get on a plane. But if I think I should travel a little more. Now that he said that, you're like, oh no, he doesn't want to travel. Like I want to go to this place and that place. And, if I'm with a man, we got to do this and do that. Now, he didn't say he's not going to travel. He just expressed, hey, I haven't traveled much. I'm not like a big plane person, but hey, there's some places I want to go to. But now you've tuned out because even though everything else on the date is great, even though you guys get along, even though everything is all good, right? You chose that to say, oh, this is not going to work. And this is how you're going to stay single. Do you understand? Because what you do is that you just jump at the opportunity to be like, oh no, this is over because he said this. This is over because he said that, even though it's not really a non-negotiable. So listen, ladies, calm the fuck down. You understand what I'm saying? Calm the fuck down. You like the guy, go out with him again. See where this can go. You understand? And stop being so nitpicky that you are ruining your chances of meeting a good man that you can be in a relationship with.